You have likely heard of this bizarre story that's come out of the Middle East. A region feeling all-out war may have been taken to the brink by a legion of pagers and walkie-talkies. Waves of explosions in supermarkets and streets across Lebanon and successive attacks over 2 days reverberated from Beirut to the south in a targeted effort largely attributed to Israel to hobble the militant and political group Hezbollah. At least 12 people were killed, including an 11-year-old boy and a 9-year-old girl, and more than 2,700 injured in the coordinated explosion of pagers that belonged to Hezbollah members. A day later, walkie-talkies were hit with a similar attack that killed another 25 people and injured hundreds of others. To talk not about the politics and the bloodshed, but how something like this could actually go off, we are joined by Kevin Andrews. You all know Kevin, regular contributor to VOCM. Good to have you today, Kevin. How you doing?
Tim, doing really good. Good afternoon to you.
We will stay away from the politics and the finer points of Middle East history and the like, and let's talk about how this could actually work and happen, Kevin. I mean, I think when people think of pagers, they don't really think of them anymore because they don't see them around. What's going on here, and how tell us more about this pager explosion.
This is pretty wild when you really think about it. I mean, pagers, we usually think of them as harmless communication devices and being used as a delivery method for small explosives here now, which is you wouldn't think. So I think in this case, it involved military-level planning where really miniature bombs were placed inside of these pagers that went to specific targets. So it looks like the design of these pagers, where they're sort of bigger than your standard phone, allowed for hidden components, making it possible to really insert small explosive charges without anybody detecting it. And it looks as if, these devices were really rigged to detonate at certain moments when either receiving a signal or when tampered with, and obviously leading to deadly outcomes. Now, I think for everybody talking about this, it's really a reminder that, with enough planning and expertise, these everyday old tech items can be manipulated for malicious purposes.
Yeah, a couple of things I've heard related to this, and as somebody said earlier today, we probably won't know what really happened for 20 years till the book and the movie comes out, two other antiquated means of communication, mind you, but that Hezbollah were using pagers because they believed that the Israelis were able to monitor their phone conversations, so they switched to pagers, and there's an element of this story where the pagers were ordered overseas and shipped in, and there may have been, it suggested some manipulation may have occurred during that process.
Sure, yeah.
But how have advancements in technology made it possible to hide explosive devices in small devices like a pager? Because some have suggested it may have to do with the batteries as well, but you tell me.
Yeah, advancements, I think, in the miniaturization of everything, whether it's technology or bombs or anything, really, particularly, I think, in these electronic components, allowed for smaller and more complex devices than to be manufactured. I think this also means that, people with malicious intent could use the shrinking technology that we have today to their advantage, really hiding these small explosives, connecting that explosive possibly to a battery, and then, making a dangerous mechanism inside the device, such as, the innocuous pager itself. So I think they were able to sort of exploit the public's trust in these everyday objects, knowing no one would really suspect something as small and old as a pager could really be weaponized.
So you probably have people listening, and I've heard this elsewhere when this has been discussed. I'm talking to you, I'm looking at my phone, I'm looking at my various screens. Should we as average citizens be concerned that our phones could be weaponized against us? I mean, they are in different ways already in terms of the information that is taken off of them and used for whatever purposes. But how concerned ought we to be about our own smartphones being manipulated to carry hidden explosives?
Yeah, I mean, good question. That's the emails that I've been, getting all day today. Really, would be, is my phone going to be a bomb? And I think, theoretically, anything with enough space could be altered. Modern smartphones, I think, are really much more complex, which would make it harder for them to modify them without really anybody detecting it. And also, I think today's devices have more built-in safety measures and regular security checks by the manufacturer itself, whether it's Apple or Google or whatever. And that said, as technology advances, so do the tactics with people who use these harmful intentions. And I really think, that vigilance would always be necessary.
Yeah, it's interesting, too, because it also there's an issue here about supply chain. Again, depending how these devices were transported, how they were put together, how that in and of itself is also controlled or subject to manipulation. I mean, we're reading today in the Globe and Mail, I'm going to talk about it later, how people are very worried about TikTok being weaponized by China.
Absolutely.
But before I let you go, you raised it. I've heard it. We've talked about it a little bit, but let's dive a little bit deeper with this as the last question. Do you think public trust in technology is affected by these stories of sabotage, whether they're pagers or phones?
Yeah, no question. No question whatsoever. I mean, public trust in technology can really be shaken by stories of this type of sabotage. And, whether it's the physical tampering of pagers or really hacking into smartphones, when people rely heavily on devices for everyday tasks, like we all do, learning that these devices sort of can be compromised can cause a lot of fear and I think a lot of uncertainty. So over time, trust tends to be rebuilt through, I think increasing security measures and I think more importantly, transparency from the manufacturers about their safety protocols.
Yeah, the last thing I'd say on that, though, one of the suggestions, again, and there are millions of them floating around, and I caution, as I always do, you sift through all the information because there's lots of theories out there. One of the suggestions out there is serial numbers could be used to access these devices, but you would still have to have something in the device, correct, for it to, you couldn't randomly make something that doesn't have an explosive in it blow up, correct?
Exactly. I would think you would need access to the manufacturing process itself to add something there. So you would really need, someone would physically have to be there to really add something to do that. But that being said, I know in the past, lithium-ion batteries are very susceptible to heat and stuff like that. And if you can send signals to a phone to really heat it up, you never know.
Oh, Kevin, that wasn't comforting. I mean, we at least were comforted when we had Les Nessman on a moment ago talking about turkey bombs. Now we got to watch out for pager bombs. But you're always instrumental and instructive, and you can hear Kevin Tuesday mornings, most Tuesday mornings, if not all Tuesday mornings, on VOCM with Jerry, Lynn, and Russell. Good to have you today, my friend. Thank you.
Thanks, Tim. Have a good one.
All right. Take care. Yeah, Kevin giving us, Kevin Andrews, his perspective on the attacks against Hezbollah by apparently Israel, using pagers and walkie-talkies. Fascinating story. Pay attention to it.